This one's called The Trouble with Boxes. The great story of human progress has always been about measuring, categorising, mechanising, and we called it enlightening that somehow we'd seen people as analogous with machines. The skin and bone that filled the clogs was full of cogs, our consciousness no more than a glorified driver. Mind the doors of perception. The deeper we looked, the more complex the machine became. For those who believed, it ceased to be satanic, and instead God became our mechanic. His plans remained too complex for us to read, but nevertheless we rolled up our sleeves. Fuck it, we'll give it a go. Natural machines, we tore down the trees before we really knew what they did. Leeches and trepanning and urban planning, although it was all to beat Heath Robinson, we had to keep on because endless growth would be the sign of our success. And so God gave us cancer, but we failed to see the analogy. Where once there were spaces, we created fences to keep us safe from nature's wild forces. We took our humanity and put it in boxes to keep us safe from the random trajectories of nonconformity. Treacherous, avaricious beasts, these boxes, hungrily gobbing up ticks and crosses, constantly expanding until they surround us. Boxes becoming fences, becoming cages, becoming yet more boxes. Enclosure of the land, enclosure of the body, enclosure of the mind. Nothing belongs to us anymore unless it can be categorised, justified and sanctified, and neatly put in a box. We curse the cursor, the pen and the pencil that ticks and crosses and imprisons us in boxes that define and measure, but we're told not to bother because just like your mother or father, your boxes protect you from those who stand outside of our order. They protect you from the mysterious, marvellous creatures who reject the boxes, who roam the dangerous and ill-defined plains of freedom, crossing the fences with their leaps of imagination. But we have a box for them too, and we'll call it other. But that's too vague, so I'll have another and another and another and another. The cross is cross-referenced, the check's double-checked against what is deemed possible, permissible. Remember, these boxes are there for your protection, just like the state itself. We can take no responsibility if you step outside of your box, step outside of your boundary, step outside of the definition. But if you're oppressed, your box can measure inequality. It can offer you solace in the geologically slow change in the tectonic gap that without the boxes the naked eye would find it hard to perceive. But the boxes can show you that one day, maybe 1,000,000 years from today, the gap won't be here at all, and the creatures into which we've evolved or devolved would all live on mountains. Someone else will live in the valleys. Still others might have been crushed between the crash of these two mighty plates, small and put upon minorities, determined by the boxes to be statistically insignificant. And that's the law of nature, because now we understand that nature is a system, and like all systems it has laws that can be bought by the rich and the powerful. So just as famine's not an economic but natural, or an act of God if you're legal and general, so the boxes come to define what's permissible, normal or abnormal. The boxes define you as being inside or outside of society, and the boxes police you and me. Some people say it's all biological, and they try to ignore the social structures that build their boxes around you and me and them and all, and stop people from just being the people they want to be, and being he, she, they or we, maybe for a moment, maybe for the rest of their lives, when really all we need to say is good luck to them, it's nobody's business but theirs, so why does it matter and who cares? Seems to me that people who care about that being against nature take so little time to explore nature, or biology, or society, and instead spend their time reducing everything, hammering it into just the right shape to fit into that box. The round peg shall fit in the square hole, and society shall be whole, just the way it was meant to be in those plans we didn't understand in the first place. Seems to me that people who care about that seem to care very little for dealing with abuse that actually exists, preferring to drown in the paranoia of what-ifs, where deviation from the norm is synonymous with dangerous. Rather than shaping a society that works for us all inclusively, they say everyone must stay safely, neatly placed in their little box, with their little cross, defining them, categorising them. Maybe they should wear them. Triangle, star, other. Of course, if we didn't have boxes, we could just treat everyone equally, but that wouldn't be very scientific, would it? In truth, we're all of us alchemists, and we created these boxes from the mists of our own prejudice. They were created to justify inequality, not to combat it. But now they are real, just denying their existence will not banish them back to where they came, but if anything, it reinforces prejudice by putting the blame on the individual. Where the size of my skull makes me a criminal, eugenic explanations founded on oppression, but it's economics, not genetics, that imprisons us in the boxes we tick. They identified us and boxed us in cells, generations before we took them for ourselves, as soapboxes for our rallies, and our rallying cry was solidarity. We didn't turn our identity into politics, others did that to explain their failed economics, to apportion blame and to counter our claim that we should all get what we were due. Even the identity which breeds solidarity can be used to divide you and me. If we lose our commonality to the bots that fill our Twitter feeds, all of a sudden our class oppression is swamped by micro-wars built on identities we nurtured in solidarity, now tossed around maliciously. Boxed in a boxing ring fighting battles we don't want, while the fat emperors and neoliberalism lounge back stuffing their plump faces with plump grapes, whilst we, like performing apes, fight for their entertainment. Let's kick over the walls that others have built around us by challenging the prejudice that surrounds us. Right now, not sometime in the future when we've gathered more data. How much have we gathered since the box has begun? Trapped in cycles of process, there's never an outcome. We shouldn't confuse the reality of difference with the reality of differentiation. Of course we're all different, infinitely so. So creating a box and saying they are like that, and creating another that says they are like this, is a reductionist approach that simplifies and stultifies the wonderful diversity of humanity. Not so much an intersection as a great spaghetti junction, a magic roundabout of expression. Sometimes we just want to go round and round, sometimes we want to get off or change direction. But in this big tent, our big top, the marvellous carnival, no freak show, but a gathering of freaks where it's all on show, because we don't have to hide it anymore. We are unique, we are different, we are one, and not one fucking box or fence in sight.